along as they are going through. It's not just them collecting from you, because the problem is just like expanding the textbook. I'm sure most of us will be thinking the textbook is big enough for them already. Then you bring in printed notes again to add to the textbook. Are you sure they're going to read? So why don't you convert this into some kind of worksheet that they can engage with in the lessons while the lesson is going on, or it may be after the lesson, but something that while they're going through it, they will contribute something, they will generate some idea. That is the whole lesson about generative note taking. So
Okay.
if it's better for you, if it is that large, give it to them printed, but ensure that some generative process is involved. That's my general advice.
All right, so the next here is from Chinwe Ofuebu. She's asking, what amount of bullet points or summary should be made available to the students?
Okay, during a lesson, there is no rule. There's really no rule. That was why I said before, when you're planning, be conscious of how much of writing you want them to do, how much of discussion. So your lesson objectives will determine some of these things. But what we're saying overall in a lesson, don't let the highest percentage of the lesson involve copying. Now, it can involve writing. If it is generative writing, if it is writing from discussion, if it is writing summary, if it is writing, there are all sorts of different writing that they can do. But sitting down to just copy verbatim, that's the one we're saying, don't let that be the highest percentage of the lesson. So if you are giving them bullet points, it depends on you. We can't give a rule to that. How many slides do you have in your lessons? How many concepts are you trying to bring into your lessons? What are the notes that you want them to take in addition to whatever is in their textbook? So how much you want them to take out and put in their notes, and it depends on the activities that they're doing. Sometimes they won't even write much bullet points. It may just be an explanation of whatever engagement that you want them to have during that lesson. So it's not a general rule, but be conscious about it before you come into the classroom, and don't let it be the highest percentage of what is going to happen through the lesson.
Okay, so from Ali Bintiga, he's asking, now as a biology teacher, how can I combine the teaching of my course and training the students on note-taking or note-making skills? So he's asking how he's going to combine both as a biology teacher.
Yeah, I understand the the peculiarity with biology teachers. The mindset is that it's voluminous, there's a lot to write and all that. In fact, all these things that we are talking about are even more useful to the scientists. I'm a scientist myself, so I understand what I'm talking about. Now, I think as a biology teacher, you need to go and find out the usefulness of some of the apps that I've mentioned. If you're working in a school where devices are available, there are so many technology platforms and apps that can help you to be able to present or engage your children more in your lessons than for them to sit down and write volumes upon volumes. Now, start with the guidelines and the rules in your lesson. Now, at the beginning of the term, for example, or the beginning of the year when you start with them, let them understand what you expect them to produce out of the lesson, more or less the output of the lessons and what you're bringing in. And then you also, when you're going to lessons, it comes around even this drawing, instead of them just labeling and sitting down and writing lengthy notes, if you want them to focus on the drawing, being able to practice the drawing and know how to draw it well, let them focus on it. Let them draw and annotate the drawings. So after drawing now, then they will now open the textbook and write almost everything that is in the textbook again beside the drawing. So for each subject, the mathematics teacher, the chemistry teacher, the biology teacher, even the English teacher, everybody, there are peculiarities. There cannot be general rules. There are peculiarities on how you can be more creative and you can adapt your own lesson in such a way that the generative process that we're talking about will be more in your lesson than then sitting down to write. So you may need to find out more from the available technology. And even if you're not using technology, guide them from the beginning, how you want them to listen and write things down. Guide them from the beginning, how you want them to be engaged in the lessons, what you want from them. And then portfolio, find out more about how you can use portfolio to keep evidences from your lesson, other than just the notes.
Okay. So Ayonimo Fair is asking how he or she can help slow learners in terms of note taking.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. There are some students, you just tag them slow learners, but you don't know the kind of special education needs that they have. You know, we are very fast to tag and make conclusions. They are just slow learners. You don't know. So that is why we need to be flexible in what this kind of children, you may tag them slow learners possibly because they are very slow in writing what you have projected on the board. And this may be people who, before they write, they want to think. You know, before they write, they want to be sure of what they are writing. Or maybe even the writing that we're talking about, there are children that have issues with their wrist. People have not taken time to find out that writing endlessly is affecting their wrist, and they are not talking about it. And you come into class, you just assume that because that child is not, following the pace as things are going so fast in the classroom, is a slow learner. Now, that's what we're saying. In fact, this is more useful to help the so-called children that are not catching up. I don't want to call them slow learners. Come into lessons with materials. Come into lesson differentiating. Come into lesson having equipped yourself with individualized learning materials, platforms, training, and be able to focus on them, being able to give you evidence of their learning, not only through writing. Some children will not be able to write well, but they can speak well. Now, you know that they have the skill strong with speaking. You want to focus on writing. So when you are going into the lesson, be deliberate about what you want to focus on. Sometimes our focus is just to get what they understand, but because they cannot write it, we just assume that they don't understand it. And that's the problem with exams sometimes. Some children, it's not that they don't know it, but they are just not, sitting down to write and write. They just write one sentence or two sentences and they are off. They are bored with it. Some children get bored with exams and they're tired of writing so much. And when it gets to your table, you are only assessing the writing skill. So there are other ways, if you're focusing on formative assessment, by which you can get feedback from the children. So before you tag the child slow learner, explore other ways of presenting the learning and getting feedback from the child, and not just focus on note writing. So this discussion is a lot more useful. Help the child with other activity-based learning, other inquiry-based learning, and you will see that the child will blossom. The child will get better in being able to give you the right feedback if you focus on other learning opportunities for the child.
Okay. So someone is asking, how do we handle learners that see taking textbooks to class is burdensome?
Okay, now there are two ways. Yeah, it is truly burdensome. It is truly burdensome. Now, there are ways, it depends on the school. Most schools now, I believe they have lockers where they can lock the textbook, and they don't need to carry the textbook home all the time. Like in my school, we have lockers in classroom where individual students can put their lockers. And I know that's what happens in most international schools, where the children don't need to be carrying around all their textbooks, so to say. When they're going for a particular class, they take the material for that lesson. If it's going to happen in their classroom, they go to their locker and bring out the textbook for that particular lesson. If they're going to the lab, maybe it is logged also in the lab. So teachers can help keep. And when they need to do personal studies with this textbook, they can have access to it. So I don't also subscribe to having children carrying loads and loads of books around the school. But I've mentioned something that can also be a solution. Explore the opportunity of e-books, explore the opportunity of e-learning platforms where you can put these things there and they can have access to it if there is internet, if there are devices. But the physical books, they don't have to be carrying them every day. And that's why timetables are available, even in schools where you don't have lockers where they can lock them. Encourage children to bring only the materials they need for particular days to school. That is it. I know that carrying a lot of textbook. Think about it. If you now say because they don't want to carry so much textbook, they leave the textbook at home and they just come to school. The question, did they actually use the textbook at home? In fact, we should even ask ourselves, are the textbook meant for being at home or being in school? Are they not more useful in school? And if they need to take one or two home, they take that home. So it depends on the structure of the school and what is available for the school to work with and individual teachers work with.
Okay, so thank you. So someone is asking if this video will be made available. Yes, we are going to make the video available on our YouTube channel. So inspiring and learning teachers. Go on.
I need to say something quickly on that. The last training we had, that was that same question, but I tried doing something myself, but I couldn't finish it. So, but I've got somebody who will help us. The last training, And this one, within the next one, we will try the best we can to make sure that it's available on the YouTube channel where everyone, those that are here and those that are not able to attend, can go and watch again, the videos, and then the PowerPoint, the email of everyone is available. So the PowerPoint can also be sent for us. We want this discussion to continue in our school, so the materials will be available.
Okay, so the next question here is, how do we help the children who are challenged with writing during exams, knowing that they have the same questions and the questions are not differentiated, and that they are not writing in their physical books to revise?
Now, there are two ways I want to approach that. We have never said they should not write in their physical books during their lessons. We are only saying if they are going to write, let it be more generative. So if they are writing things that are more generative, in fact, they will be better prepared to develop ideas in exams better than children that are just copying. Now, but there are still some children who may have difficulties in really writing. We've talked also about that. And I'm sure exams, especially the international exams, have that clause while you're doing registration. If you have children who for specific special needs are not able to write well, you can get some allowance for them and they may be able to allow them more time. Now, if it is about children who will get into the exam hall and it's not like they cannot write physically, it's not like something is wrong with their hands, it's just that they don't like writing. Now, what we are discussing today will even help them more to like writing, to learn writing, that will help them in exam than note copying. Note copying and just verbatim duplicating what is placed on a whiteboard or on a projector slide will not help children to get into exam hall and learn how to write. Now, this question has been asked by a literature teacher before. Oh, they need to write so number of words as essay. And I said, I have never gone against children keeping, in fact, have essay books and whatever for them. As long as what they are writing involves something that is generated by them, has input from their own thought process, great. So they make them write, no problem. But when they are writing, let it be generative. So such children in lessons, encourage them to write more generatively, more actively. They will be better prepared to sit for their exams more than them just sitting down and copying what you are giving them. That's what we're saying.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. So that's the end of the question and answer discussion session. And invariably, we've come to the end of another exciting time on Inspiring and Learning Teachers Network. Before we sign off, we want to say a big thank you to everyone who has made this program possible, and to you, dear educators, for joining us. I want to say thank you to Olashore for coming with a lot of staff. And we have educators joining us all the way from Yobe, Kwara, Osun, and even Lagos. We are increasing. Don't forget that this discussion goes on, especially on our social media handles. Please join us on LinkedIn, join us on Facebook, and it's Inspiring and Learning Teachers Network. So at the end of this exercise, we will be sending out survey to you so that you can assess us and tell us how we are going and how we are moving. Thank you very much, Mr. Derek Smith, for always being present, and Mr. Olayinka Thomas. Thank you very much. And to everyone, I say thank you for joining us. And remember, we are inspiring and learning teachers. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.